All right, strap in, everybody. We're going deep on Pitch Anything today by Oren Klaff.
Oh, this is a good one.
This book says it's like the ultimate guide to being persuasive, especially when it comes to closing deals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, it all comes down to this idea of mental frames.
Yeah. It's a pretty wild concept, right?
It is. So, what exactly are these mental frames? I'm kind of lost.
Oh, Kloff says we all have them. Think of them like filters, like invisible filters in our brains,
Okay.
And they shape how we see the world, how we react to information, the whole 9 yards.
So it's not just about, the words coming out of our mouths. It's the whole vibe.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really juicy. When two people are interacting, their frames are kind of like clashing. It's this silent battle for dominance.
Like a mental wrestling match.
Totally. And only the strongest frame survives. Whoever controls that dominant frame, well, they basically control the whole interaction.
So you're saying the person who sets the tone wins the game.
Pretty much.
I'm starting to see how this could be powerful stuff, but how does it actually work, in real life?
Well, Clough uses this really awesome analogy, the cop frame.
Okay.
So picture this. You're speeding down the highway, and suddenly those flashing lights appear in your rearview mirror.
Yeah.
You get pulled over. In that moment, why do you, instantly submit to the officer's authority?
Oh, man, it's not just knowing they have the law on their side, right? There's a whole presence about them, The uniform, the badge,
Yeah.
the way they talk, it's intimidating.
Exactly. That's Clough's whole point. The cop's frame is so strong, so powerful, that it triggers this primal response in us. We just react almost instinctively, bypassing logic altogether.
Because their frame is tapping into some deep-seated fear, like, oh, no, I'm in trouble.
That's it. Fear and obedience all wrapped up in that uniform.
Wow. Okay, but how does this frame thing apply to the business world? I mean, we're not all cops out here trying to give people tickets.
Right, right. But think about it. Traditional sales tactics, they often rely on this, like grinding effort,
Like trying to wear someone down.
Yeah. Trying to persuade them through logic, data, features, benefits.
Sure, sure.
And while that can work sometimes, Claff says it's often ineffective because you're approaching the interaction from a position of weakness.
So instead of focusing on all his details, he's saying you should first establish the right frame, like set the tone.
Exactly. It's a frame-first approach. By establishing dominance early on, you're essentially setting the stage for the entire interaction. Then, the deal-making, it just flows naturally from that dominant frame.
That's really interesting. Okay, I see the potential here, but to do this right, wouldn't you have to understand the different types of frames you might encounter?
Absolutely. Claff outlines a bunch of different frames, but some of the big ones, you've got the power frame, the time frame, the analyst frame. You're going to run into these all the time.
Okay, let's break them down one by one because I'm already getting a little intimidated. Let's start with the power frame. I feel like I know exactly who you're talking about with that one. It's the person who walks into the room and just owns it.
That's the one. They just radiate authority, importance. Sometimes it's through arrogance. Sometimes it's just this air of being in control.
So how do you handle that? How do you counter that power frame without getting, totally steamrolled?
Claff has this technique he calls the power busting frame.
Okay, hit me with it.
It involves subtle defiance, denial even, and often a little humor helps. The goal is to disrupt their dominance, shift the power dynamic ever so slightly.
Oh, this reminds me of that story in the book where Klaff's pitching this huge deal, like $60 million to this high-powered trader named Steve.
Oh, yes, Steve.
And at first, Klaff feels like he's losing control because Steve's totally ignoring him, just doodling on a notepad.
Classic power move.
Right. And then Klaff does something totally unexpected. Instead of trying to drag Steve's attention back to the pitch, he just focuses on the doodle, and he playfully demands a price for it.
Uh-huh. I love that part. That's what Claff calls local star power.
Wait, local star power? What's that?
It's about becoming the most interesting person in that specific interaction. Not in general, just right there in that moment.
I like it.
By shifting the focus to something totally random, Claff disrupts Steve's power frame, injects some humor, and boom, he's got Steve's full attention.
So it's not about trying to be more powerful than them. It's about finding a clever way to change the whole dynamic.
You got it.
I can see how that would work. Okay, what about the time frame? I feel like everyone's been in that situation where you're waiting for the big decision maker and they're late. And you just sit there feeling like your time is being wasted.
That's exactly what they want you to feel.
Mm.
It's a classic power move designed to make you feel less important.
It's so frustrating. So what do? Just sit there and take it?
Nope. Claff recommends a bold counter-move, the prize frame.
Ooh, tell me more.
Instead of just waiting around, you set a firm time limit, like 15 minutes max.
Okay.
If they don't show up,
You do.
you walk out. Yep. By doing that, you flip the script. You become the scarce resource, the one they have to chase. You're not waiting for their approval anymore. They have to earn your time.
That's a power move right there. But does that actually work in real life?
Claff tells this story about an avocado farmer who's dealing with a shady businessman. It gets really intense.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
At first, the farmer tries using, like, a moral authority frame.
So, like, appealing to the guy's sense of right and wrong.
Right. But things escalate quickly, and it ends up with this crazy confrontation. The farmer even threatens to get the FBI involved.
Wow, so these frame battles can get pretty serious. Sounds like the farmer really knew how to hold his ground, though. I guess if you feel like you're on the side of what's right, that can be a really strong position. All right, last one. The dreaded analyst frame. I'm sure we've all met this person, the one who gets lost in the details, kills the energy, and totally derails the conversation.
Oh, the analyst. The classic pitch killer.
Right, so how do you deal with that?
Claff's got a solution for this one, too.
Yeah.
The intrigue frame.
Intrigue.
Okay, tell me more.
He says, you fight dry analysis with a story, a compelling, engaging story. But here's the key. You hold back the ending until the very end.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
Exactly. Clark uses this personal story he calls the Porterville incident to demonstrate this. It's about this near-death experience he had in a small plane.
I remember reading about that, yeah. Intense.
He just teases the details bit by bit to hook his listeners.
So smart.
And by creating that suspense, that intrigue, he completely disarms the analyst frame and pulls everyone back in, gets them emotionally invested.
Okay, now I'm on the edge of my seat. What happened in the Porterville incident? Did everyone make it out okay?
Well,
Don't tell me you're going to make us wait for part 2.
maybe just a little bit, but trust me, it's a good one. And before we get there, there's another fascinating concept Clough introduces. Okay, so before we get to that crazy plane story and, find out what happened.
Yes, the suspense is killing me.
I want to touch on this idea that we often get so focused on the content of our pitches, like the logic, the data, all that stuff.
Right, exactly. That we completely forget about the social dynamics, like the whole vibe of the interaction.
It's like we're trying so hard to win the argument that we forget to set the stage for the argument. Does that make sense?
Totally. And that's where understanding frames comes in. It's like having a secret weapon for mastering those invisible forces that shape everything.
Okay, enough teasing. Tell me about the Porterville incident. Did Claff actually, crash?
Okay, I won't leave you hanging. So Claff picks up the story at this super intense moment. The plane is literally plummeting towards the ground.
Oh, gosh.
And he reveals that it was the TCAS, the Traffic Collision Avoidance System.
I don't know what that is.
Right, so it's this system that detects other aircraft.
Oh, yeah.
And it basically took over, forced the jet into all these crazy maneuvers.
Wait, so it wasn't the pilot's fault. It was, trying to prevent a midair collision.
Yeah.
That's why it felt like they were fighting each other.
Exactly. They were trying to regain control from the system.
Wow. What a relief. But what a crazy way to illustrate the power of intrigue, right? He kept everyone on the edge of their seats, wanting to know if they were going to survive.
Totally. And it goes beyond just storytelling. It's about creating an emotional connection, like pulling people in. But let's switch gears for a second. Remember the prize frame we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah. The one where you position yourself as, the prize.
Right. And this is crucial when you're pitching for investment, especially. Most people, they go into those meetings thinking the money is the prize.
So they're desperate to get the funding.
Exactly. And that weakens their position.
Yeah.
They come across as needy. Claff says you got to flip this script. Think of it like this: the money's just a commodity. It's everywhere.
You're the special one.
Yeah. You, your skills, your vision, your ability to execute, that's the real prize.
Okay, I like where this is going, but how do you, actually project that prize mentality?
First, you got to believe it yourself. You have to genuinely believe in your value. And then you got to project that confidence, through your body language, your tone of voice.
So you're not arrogant, but you're definitely not desperate.
Right. You're selective. You're in demand.
Yeah.
You can even ask investors, why do I want to do business with you?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Or tell me about yourself. I'm pretty picky about who I work with.
Whoa, that's bold. I love it.
It subtly shifts the power, makes them justify themselves to you. It's like creating this air of scarcity, like, ooh, what I can't have.
Totally.
But the prize frame goes beyond just playing hard to get. It's about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing them you respect your time and you expect them to do the same.
So if they try to reschedule last minute,
You politely decline. You say, sorry, that doesn't work for me.
it's not about being rude, it's about knowing your worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The prize frame is about shifting your entire mindset.
I'm realizing how much power we unknowingly give away, just by not thinking about these things. This is so insightful.
It really is. CLAP's all about empowering people, giving them the tools to take control.
So, beyond the whole business world, how does this apply to our everyday lives? Can we use this with our families, friends, the cable company?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely dive into in part 3.
Yeah.
Because these principles, they really do go way beyond the boardroom.
So we've been digging into this whole pitch anything thing.
It is pretty dense.
It is, and I'm realizing it's not just about, selling stuff.
No, not at all.
It's like a guide to understanding people, like the hidden rules of how we interact.
That's like social psychology almost.
Right. And Claff keeps saying we focus so much on what we're saying, like the words and the data.
The logic.
Yeah, but we totally miss these invisible forces that shape how our message is received.
The frames.
The frames. It's like we're so busy trying to win the argument
That we forget to set up the playing field.
Exactly. But if you control the frame, you control the whole conversation.
You're writing the rules of the game.
Okay, so this all makes sense in the business world, but you were saying it goes way beyond that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How does this apply to our personal lives?
Well, think about it. Let's say you're trying to convince your partner.
To do something they don't want to do. I'm familiar with this situation.
Of course, who isn't? But instead of, listing all the logical reasons why they should do it.
I'm like, but honey, it makes sense.
Right, you could try shifting the frame,
Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you want to take a vacation.
Always a good example.
So instead of focusing on convincing them, you create a prize frame around the vacation itself.
Ooh, I like this.
You highlight how exclusive it is. Oh, there's only one room left at this amazing resort.
Scarcity.
Exactly. It makes it more desirable.
So it's not about manipulation. It's about, understanding the psychology.
It's about communication.
Communicating more effectively.
Right. And realizing that sometimes we give our power away without even knowing it.
Okay, so how do we start to use these frames to our advantage?
Honestly, just start paying attention, become an observer of your interactions.
We've had people watching.
Kind of. Notice how people use their body language, their tone, even their words to establish dominance.
Like they're trying to control the frame.
Exactly. Once you see those patterns, you can start testing out different frames yourself.
Experimenting.
Yeah, it's a process, but it
Yeah.
gets easier.
So it's like Clough's giving us a toolkit.
He is. And the more you practice, the more confident you become.
It's like learning a new language, the language of persuasion.
I like that.
So for our listeners who are like, okay, I'm ready to try this, what's the one thing they should do today?
Become aware of your own default frames. What kind of energy are you bringing to the table? Are you projecting confidence, or are you accidentally shrinking yourself?
Yeah, do you walk into a room owning it, or do you kind of fade into the background?
Right. Once you know your tendencies, you can start making different choices.
And remember, framing is a skill, not a talent.
Anyone can learn it.
This has been so eye-opening.
It's a lot to digest.
It is, but I feel like I'm starting to see the world in a whole new way.
That's the goal.
So whether you're, pitching a business deal, talking to your kids, or even just trying to get the waiter's attention.
Understanding these frames can change the game.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Keep practicing those frames, and we'll catch you next time with a brand new topic to explore.